You're listening to the world's smartest podcast network.
When I go to Sacramento, I will pump up Sacramento.
Some say the news is fake. Others say it's real. These two don't have the time to check. Instead, Turner Sparks and Michael Ira Kaplan turn to comics stationed around the globe to be their eyewitness reporters so that you can know what's really going on. This is Lost in America.
All right, everybody, welcome to Lost in America, episode 261. My name's Turner Sparks.
And I'm Mike Kaplan.
You can find me at turnersparks.com. You can find me at the Friars Club March 11th. Kaplan, tickets are starting to move on that show. I will be recording my album live at the Friars Club. It's not called Live at the Friars Club. That was the name of the last one.
I was going to say, yeah,
but I will be recording it live. It's very confusing. It's as yet to be named. Possibly Double Happiness. 2 shows. 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Kaplan and the entire Patreon crew will be at the 9 p.m. show with a table.
Show. We got our own table. Yeah, we're gonna be heckling you.
So get tickets to that. We will have the ticket link in the description of this show. Kaplan, you can find Kaplan at all social media platforms at Cap in America, and you can find him at the Friars Club March 11th at my recording.
Yes, I will be there. Yeah, with all our great patrons, and so sign up. You know,
and I heard your uncle's coming.
My uncle, he's not an official Patreon, but we talk about him on the Patreon show, so maybe he'll be at the table too. We'll see.
Yes.
So Uncle Michael, thanks for buying tickets.
Very excited for that. Kaplan, on the show today, we're talking about those crazy Canadian truckers. I think that it's died down, but there might be, I don't know. I want to find out if there's round 2. There's a lot to get to there. So we have Todd Van Allen, a stand-up comedian out of Canada, coming up in just a few minutes. To talk about that, to tell us everything. It was a 3 weeks of madness, and for now it's over, but who knows what's coming, Kaplan. But if you are a fan of this show, thank you for listening. But really, you listening
doesn't get us anything.
It doesn't get us much. What we need is your money.
Yeah.
So go to patreon.com/Lost in America for $5 a month. That's all it takes. You can listen to 3 extra episodes of Cap and I doing our full throttle comedy podcast live from the bunker. Or you can not listen. Some people say they don't like hearing us, so then they can just give us the money and not listen. That's an option too. You don't have to listen.
That's the preferable option, because then I can talk about you without feeling bad that you're listening.
Because that's where we spill all the beans on all of our closest loved ones.
Yes, we just empty out all the
secrets. They don't subscribe, so who cares?
We assume they're not listening. Yeah. So
and Cap, so that's for $5 a month. For $10 a month, but we might need to rework this. For $10 a month, you get the show. You get the show, the Live from the Bunker. Plus, you get a Lost in America, #1 in Armenia mug or t-shirt or hat or whatever you want. We went to #1 in Armenia. Of course, we printed merch when we did that. But Cap, I think we might need to redo this, because we had this Patreon subscriber named Whatever Scoop, and I don't feel bad outing him because I doubt that's his real name. He did a smash and grab job on us. Here's the deal. We're kind of dumb because these t-shirts cost us $22 to print. And all you have to do is sign up for $10 a month as a subscriber, and you get the t-shirt. He signed up for $10 a month, got the t-shirt. Immediately, he went down to $5 a month, and I said, something's up. And then before the month was over, he unsubscribed. So that guy owes us $8.
If you're listening to we're still a Lost in America listener, Whatever Scoop. Come on, shame on you. You should have given us at least 3 months.
You stole $8 from us.
That's from my family.
Good faith agreement. Never mind, we're dumb business people.
I mean, Turner's, you can't even afford. You're trying to pay for a vacation over there in Mexico, and I got kids' colleges to pay for. I mean, this is outrageous.
I went to vacation on Mexico, assuming Whatever Scoop would still be sending me $5 a month to pay for this trip.
So I mean, that is like dine and dash in, or just it's taking advantage. I kind of respect him. I got to be honest, because I always like to get the best deal. Sometimes I order things at restaurants I don't even want because I mathematically I'm like, that's a really good deal. That's how I approach things. So from him, I think he probably just signed up because he saw a loophole. Isn't even a fan of ours.
Do you think he's burning our t-shirt for heat right now for warmth?
He's probably wearing it. It's a nice shirt. And maybe he's Armenian. I don't know. So good for him, but we might have to rethink the policy. So you get in this month, guys, before we rethink that loophole.
Yeah, we might have to figure that out. We'll have a meeting with the people upstairs.
Do we have business managers who can advise us on this?
We'll figure it out.
George?
Anyway, let's get to today's episode, Kaplan. So these Canadian truckers blocked all the roads in Ottawa, in Windsor, I think also in Alberta, and they tried to they were mad. They didn't want to get vaccinated, so they shut down the country, and it kind of worked.
Well, it was one of those things I never thought of. Like, I love when things happen when you never consider it could be a thing. Like, these truckers got mad because they had mandates, I think, to go back and forth on the border. You need to be vaccinated. Yes. And they just decided, screw that. And like, a truck's a really big item, right? You could block a lot of real estate. Like, I used to have a geoprism. If we had a geoprism, it wouldn't have done much, It
would have taken a lot of geoprisms.
Yeah, exactly. So I never thought of that border. I never thought of the American-Canadian border as being something you could just block off, right? It's pretty large. So I learned something immediately that they could.
Well, what I like about this story is that it goes against everything Michael Moore has taught me about Canada.
Exactly. They were supposed to be so peaceful.
First of all, they have trucks. I thought only Americans had Michael Moore told me that they were too good for trucks, and they didn't have trucks, and then they have guns.
They have guns. They can
there was
be
a whole part. I
anti-science.
guess guns were confiscated up there, and he told me they didn't have guns. He told me that everyone up there was better than everyone of us. So this makes me happy to know that Canadians are just like us.
Yeah, and I love the idea that maybe in the not too distant future, there will be Canadian travelers who are backpacking around Europe and put American flags on their backpacks. Because so we've been talking about this for years, how annoyed we get of the Americans who do the Canadian flag thing.
These are our least favorite Americans are the ones who I lived in Asia for 12 years, in China. Kaplan's traveled around. We're not just people who've never left our hometown, but at the same time, we're not these people who are so embarrassed of our own country that we're going to put another country's flag so that someone meanwhile, people in Cambodia don't care where you're from. But anyway, hopefully Canadians will start doing that with ours just to balance things out a little bit.
It's nice. It feels good because I did always, like you said, I always feel like Canadians are just chiller, calmer.
That's what media has told us. They're better than us. We've been told that for a very long time.
They're not. Yeah. So this is really refreshing. I feel much better about Neighbors to the North. That we have crazy people everywhere.
And the last thing I want to get into is that we'll get into that later. I want to get into the fact that they were declared terrorists eventually in this whole thing.
That's the big news. The latest news that we'll get into. Yeah.
Now, our guest is a stand-up comedian based in Ottawa, based in the center of where this all happened, which is the capital of Canada, which was also news to all of us. He is the host of the Comedy Above the Pub podcast. He has a show called Write 'em Up, which you can watch online. Everybody, please welcome Todd Van Allen to the show. Todd, thanks for doing it.
Hello.
Hello, Canadian friend.
Hi. How's it going, eh? Holy shit.
That's better.
Boy, oh boy, have you caught us with our pants down. Holy shit, Christ. First of all, I want to say this. I'm surprised, Mike, you are the second Mike Kaplan that I have met.
Oh, is that other one, that guy with the Q?
The guy with the Q? I've met him.
A real enemy of this podcast.
That's Kaplan's arch enemy.
Okay. Well,
because you never like someone with your same name.
I don't like someone who took my name and put a Q on it. Made it more interesting.
Here's
that's
the
like
thing,
putting a Canadian flag of names.
Exactly.
Well, this leads nicely into here before I get into that. But Turner, congratulations on the Friars Club gig.
Thank you.
I assume Shelley Berman is opening for you. That'll be good.
Shelley Berman. He's doing the phone call bit or whatever it is.
So in the early days of Facebook, when people were just kind of coming on and stuff like that, I did a search on my name, seeing like how many other Todd Van Allens are out there. And one guy is in the Midwest and he's a scratch bowler. Like he lives in Ohio or something like that. So he bowls and I would see like Google alerts, Todd Van Allen bowls a perfect game. So I'm like, hey, that's cool. And so like every time he has a birthday, I wish him a happy birthday, me. And then there was another Todd Van Allen. He was in Florida, and I added him as a friend. And he messaged me back, said, "Yeah, it's pretty cool. We have the same name, but not adding you as a friend." So Florida me is a prick.
Yeah.
But I have since Googled my name, saying, "Okay, let's see how many are out there." And there is the bowler. He's still there. And the rest of them are all Trump flag wearing goofballs.
It's a real Trumpy name, is what you're saying.
It's a real Trumpy name.
You'll appreciate, Turner, you probably remember this. I used to be a member in the early days of Facebook of a Michael Kaplan's of the World Club. Uh-huh. And I once was having a party at my old apartment, one of the final parties in the East Village. And I said, I just invited the whole club. I said, if your name is Michael Kaplan, you got to come to my party. And one guy showed up. He found me out. He's
amazing.
Like, he's just some guy. He's like, he just crashed our apartment party. Everyone else knows each other. And he's like, hey, my name's Michael Kaplan. You said I could come. I was like, yeah. So yeah, you got to have a kinship.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm looking forward to heading down into the South and go, hey, what's your name? Todd Van Allen. Hey, that's really cool. Nope. I'm not that way. I'm not.
like we all just assume if you hear a Todd Van Allen, you know
this
which way they vote.
My red hat is actually a senator's hat. So there we go.
So what's going on with these truckers? I know it's slowed down now, but how did this start? How did it go from... Why did the truckers decide that they needed to save the country?
So here's the thing, and this goes back, and it's not over. Just so you know, it's not over because a couple things have happened over the past 24 hours. One happening right now. Bail hearings are going on for the organizers of this thing because arrests were made in Ottawa. And Pat King, who is a replacement theory white supremacist, the organization says they don't have him as an organizer, but when you go to their webpage, it has his email there. So
they have a webpage?
Maybe fire your web guy. So Pat King's bail hearing is going on right now. There's a couple of great moments in it as the Crown, which is the I don't know what you call down there, what the prosecution.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Queen of England or something.
Yeah, no. I thought the Crown is our court. My favorite moment last night, by the way, was Tucker Carlson trying to pronounce the House of Commons like he was just saying Benjamin Netanyahu for the first time.
like that was an obscure concept to him.
Yes, exactly. The House of I don't know what that is.
That word, Commons.
Right. The Emergencies Act has been extended because there's a private residence, a farm that is housing hundreds of trucks that could be redeployed. So the Emergencies Act, I'm amazed I'm able to talk to you because my liberties are being stolen. The emergencies, it's the Emergencies Act is still extended. They got the votes in the House of Commons to extend it with all the provisions that have kept everyone free. Everyone's fine. If you're a prick, you're going away. That's the only thing this thing is doing. That's all.
Let's explain what the I think let's start at the beginning and we'll work our way forward.
Let's go. Okay, so let's go way back
to the Emergency Act. So
a truck was invented in the year. No.
So this started with truck drivers blocking streets because they didn't want to get vaccinated. Is that correct?
It goes back to this. So we have through the federal government is being blamed for a lot of the problems we have COVID-wise in Canada, which to some extent is true. Okay, to some extent, it's totally true. One of the mandates that they put in, which is a federal mandate, is that truckers could not cross the border into Canada if they were not vaccinated.
Got it.
Okay. Which I don't know if you know, the U.S. has the exact same law.
I was going to say we have that going both. It goes both ways. So how do they even get in?
Same. So if you don't get back, you stupid motherfucker. So you're going to hear me blurt that out a lot, and I apologize to your listeners because they're stupid motherfuckers. So, and to provide backstory for this, 90% of truckers do not agree with this.
90% are vaccinated, right?
90% of truckers are vaccinated.
That's what I read.
90% of truckers are still doing their job right now. So whenever you hear me say truckers, I'm not talking about them. I'm not.
Got it.
My uncle was a trucker. I get it. I get
Good
these
people on both sides of the truckers union.
Good. Okay. Let's not. No, that's not terminology I enjoy. So I don't know if you know this. That phrase carries a bit of baggage.
Does it? I'm unaware.
Yeah. Just don't.
Kaplan thought he just invented that phrase.
No. Oh, dude, the papers. So this 10%. Fringe have kind of grew in momentum, and people are going, yeah, we don't like our mandates, and because things were being shut down. Now the problem is the reason things were being shut down was not a federal legislation. It was all provincial.
Right.
And all the provinces they're complaining about, Ottawa, which is in Ontario, Alberta, Calgary and Edmonton, they're having there, Vancouver, all these places have right-wing conservative leaders at the provincial level, and they're the ones controlling the mandates. And so what is happening is that they recently have they have put in all these measures because people were dying. And the problem, the balancing act that they have all been trying to do, and I'll use Ontario as an example. The reason you put down all the lockdowns in place is because you don't want people contracting the disease. Because if they contract the disease, they go to the hospital. When they go to the hospital, because they're not vaccinated, they go to the ICU. The ICUs get clogged and the system crumbles because now you can't do any other surgeries because every single bed is filled with a moron who won't get vaccinated, right? So this is so funny. So
Michael Moore said that would never happen. No.
Right. So, and the reason that they're also feeling hits, like the best thing that ever happened in Ontario was this COVID thing came along, because previous to it, Doug Ford, our premier, who is a boob, started defunding the healthcare system. So as
Comes
soon
from
as
the famous Ford family.
Exactly. I think Rob.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Everyone's heard of
one of our favorite
jerseys on the House of Commons.
Yes. My wife traveled to India for work one day while Rob Ford was the mayor in Toronto when I was living there. And she called me and said, you won't believe what just happened. I got in the car and the guy said, you're from Canada? What's this Rob Ford guy? Like in India.
For the same reasons that we find this story, obviously we don't like this story, but we find it at least freeing to as someone from down here. We also loved Rob Ford.
Oh, he was the best.
We're like, he's one of us. He looks
mayor.
like he could be our mayor.
Right. He was a less savvy. Who was the mayor in Chicago? Marion Barry.
Oh, Mayor, DC.
DC, sorry. Marion Barry.
Yeah.
Apologize.
That was
Chicago.
our cokehead. That guy wasn't as much fun, though. I felt like
he
wasn't partying.
Because he was accomplished and they still voted for him. That was,
He was, yeah. But I remember we talked about this last time we talked about Canada, Turner, that like it was surprising that Ford in Ontario had all these strong COVID laws, right? Is that what you're
right?
Even though he's on the right. Yeah.
So what happened initially was that he went, oh, shit, this COVID thing's happening. Let's listen to the federal guidance. So that's what he did. And so everyone, it said that had a pen and a paper were saying Doug Ford is just so really taking the role of leadership in this. And all he was doing was standing back and saying to the doctors, tell us what we need to do.
Sure.
And that lasted for 3 months. Because then all of his he started doing things like the businesses and small businesses were struggling, so what the federal government did is said, okay, here's a bunch of money for you guys at the provincial level, distribute it as you want. So Doug Ford kept that money and didn't give it to anyone so that he could reduce the deficit of the province, which is not what that money was built for. Not at all. Not at all.
So you have a similar thing with us where I didn't realize that, like, our big issue is that really the president, no matter who it is, can't do a ton because the states have so much control.
Yes, exactly.
You do the same thing.
Yeah. So he was doing this balancing act between finances and not paying people and stuff like that. But weirdly, when small businesses said, we need money, they're like, no, you got to stay closed because we got to. But then Walmart said, excuse me. And they're like, oh, right this way. So you could have fucking Walmart and Costco open.
Same problem we had.
Yeah, exactly.
The big box stores, Target, all of them did amazing, and all the small mom and pops are running out of business.
Right.
Yeah.
Couldn't buy diapers, but you could buy patio furniture. Like, it was just stupid. So I don't know. Let the baby shit on the chaise lounge. I don't know. I don't know what you want.
Just potty train them from birth. Come on.
So So this has happened, and then we were starting to get things, and Omicron, the jabs are coming out, and so the federal government procured the vaccines. And we also had bottlenecks because what had happened was there was no leadership at the provincial level. Certainly, this was the case in Ottawa. So then, in the same way that the federal government doesn't have a lot of power to push things down into the provinces, when the provinces give up, everything has to go to the local health services, right? So Doug would make this announcement on a Friday going, we're rolling out vaccines, and all the health services at the municipal level were going, fuck, because they have no throughput, they have no application to get these things through. So it's crazy, right? So we muddled through this, and everyone in Canada stepped up. We got like an 80-90% vaccination rate. The boosters are going great. As soon as that fourth booster comes in, as I say on stage, my left arm is a pub dartboard at this point. Just thunk, 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 thunk. Just give me the thing. But this 10% they were looking for an excuse to roll out. And you start to see why as this thing progresses. So it starts out as a small grassroots. And whenever you see grassroots,
nothing's grassroots anymore.
No. Yeah. As soon as you see the word proud in the Facebook page title, no one should be proud of anything anymore. This is probably AstroTurf. This is... Which someone once described Ontario with Doug Ford as its leader as Ontario is not a province. It's 3 real estate developers in a trench coat. Like that's where we are right now. So that's where his bread is buttered. So it started at the West, and in this thing, we're going to drive across the country. We're going to fight this thing, and we're going to do this, and we're going to get this. It's going to be thousands of kilometers long, right? Once it got to Kingston, which is a town where I grew up when I was a kid, just outside of Kingston. The trucks had hit, I think, maybe the 200 mark. So it was maybe 4 kilometers long, which is about 2.5, 3 miles for you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to dumb it down for us. We don't know.
Wait, so what do you mean?
About 3 miles.
What do you mean when they hit Kingston? Like they
started
started
when this convoy hit Kingston, they were saying it was going to be 70,000 kilometers long, like 60,000 miles long.
Oh, the length of
so Kingston's on the border, right?
Kingston is about a 3-hour drive to Toronto, and then a further 2 hours to Ottawa, where they were heading.
See.
Right. So when they stopped in I keep forgetting you guys don't understand Ontario geography, and I apologize.
We just learned that Ottawa was the capital.
We're speaking. Speaking for our listeners. Todd.
Right. Yeah, we
know everything.
That's good point. Exactly.
So please, when I start to go too much into Hoserville, please roll me back and do this. By the way, this is interesting. I'm happy you guys had me on here to discuss this, because it is gaining traction, because I've been doing open mics online. So a lot of them are in California or on the West Coast or stuff like that. And 2 weeks ago, I got the note, hey, a lot of us don't know about this trucker thing. You really need to give us like a little 30-second intro of like what this is, just to set it up. And then as soon as I get to I turn on the screen, the open mic, the first question is, how's that trucker thing going? It's like, okay, so you
can I tell you, Todd, I was sitting at the pool yesterday. I'm in Mexico. Yes. I was sitting at the pool, and the people sitting next to me were discussing the Canadian trucker thing.
Yes,
and I was I was listening, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing research for the."
This is how Turner researches for the pod. He just travels the world and sits at the pool, talks to the common man that way.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you say it started in the West. Yeah. Did they actually start in? You mean the West, like Vancouver, and they were going to drive across the country?
That's where they were going to start. And they were going to start this convoy, and they were going to pick up more trucks. So
they got like 2,000 miles.
Are there enough trucks to do it if they got all the trucks?
Oh, yeah. Like if you think of 10% of the truck, there's a lot of movement across
I have no
concept
of,
Yeah. It's massive, right? Like we're as wide, if we're slightly wider than the US, right? Sure. Like we have much wider. And if you include the geography of the islands, we're probably in the North Atlantic. And the Arctic Circle were probably larger geographically than
it takes up like half the globe if you look at a globe.
Yeah, I think we're like
too much land. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
we should take some of that.
Number 1 is Russia. And I think we're number 2. I think in geography.
I would imagine
Russia's about to get a little bit bigger, but that's
just a little bit.
That's another episode. So just starting from the West in Vancouver, they drove roughly 2,000 miles. I'm guessing, and
probably closer to 5 to 6,000. I can get that figure for you later. And gathering steam as they went along, and their goal was to occupy the Capitol building in Ottawa. So it's on Parliament Hill. They wanted to occupy and just and really make their point known that they were going to do this. So and Ottawa just kind of let it happen. They just kind of like, okay, I guess we're going to do that, because the problem, and DC I'm sure has this issue as well, is that they have 3 levels of government they have to go through to get anything done, because it's the nation's capital. There's a National Capitals Commission that has to look after things. There's your municipal level, which is just like the city of Ottawa, like any other city. Then it's got provincial level stuff, and then of course it's got the federal stuff because the fucking Parliament buildings are right there. So they got 4 different things, and everyone's like, what do I
Who's
do?
in charge? Yeah.
Right.
So no one wanted to be the one to say you can't do this because it looked like you might be limiting someone's freedom or something.
Yeah. So in all of this, remember that when it shakes down at a local level, when every level needs help, they ask the person above them. Right. But you can't go down. So Trudeau at the federal government level sees the huge trailer truck with "fuck Trudeau" written on the side of it, which was a thing. And
he's an attractive man. No.
I know. Well, and they always, trust me, women were saying that for years.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Who's that tidy fellow? Why, yes, I do what they say on that truck. So the weird thing for me is, like, they would have these "fuck Trudeau" flags in this huge truck, and they'd always complain, why won't he come out and talk to us?
I did read a lot of that. Like, people were like, he just doesn't come talk to us, as if that's a normal thing that presidents or prime ministers do from countries.
Turner, I know you as a man who, Mike, are you a comic as well?
Just 3 times.
Okay. All right. But Turner, I know, like, if you've ever had a hard problem with an audience and they won't shut up, they won't let you do your jokes, the first thing as soon as you get off stage is, I can't wait to have drinks with these people.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
But they normally want to talk to you.
Sure.
They want to be like, hey, you really got me. Or like, let's work this thing out. And you're like, no, like, why do I need to talk to you?
Yes. And it's, as I say on stage, is like the tolerance level for these people is gone, because you never see them go, fuck, hear me out, Trudeau.
Exactly.
It's never that civil. So when the cops can't work, you go to the provincial level and you go to provincial level. So the city had gone, fuck, help. We don't know what's going on. Help us. Right. So then it immediately went to Doug as the provincial leader, Doug Ford, who did, I don't know if you caught this down there, during the crisis, during like week 1, the big weekend, when all the rallies were still going on and stuff like that, he went up to his cottage and snowmobiled.
We did not get that.
That was his action plan. And he got called out on it in a press conference that he was holding. We're going to get these truckers out of here. We're going to work really hard. And as soon as he was called on it, see if this sounds familiar. I've been on my phone 24/7. No one's been working harder. It's like, you were fucking snowmobiling, you jackass. So there's that. So and there's a reason that you can't do that. There's a reason Trudeau can't work his way down, because then it's overreaching. Right.
Yeah. So Trudeau can't override the province, Doug Ford,
until we get to the Emergencies Act, which is coming. Right.
That's why the DC is different, because it's not part of a state. So,
correct. Yeah. So there's something to that, but it also has its own problems because they don't have voting rights.
So what on the ground? You're in Ottawa.
Yes.
Ottawa. When they were, how many actual city blocks did they shut down? How did it affect the city?
So there was like a red zone. They call it a red zone of, like, I would say about 10 to 20 city blocks. Right. And they had actually, which was quite smart, the police in advance of this locked out the direct access to Parliament Hill. So, like, the main arteries that went right into the front, which is where the truckers really wanted to go, was shut down. So they had to just pile up around the back. So all they did is they camped out, honked their horns all night and all day.
That's where they lost me. I gotta say, as a member, like, I'm a Yenta over here in New York City. Nothing I hate more than people who honk, make noise. Like, that's the lowest thing you can do, other than fireworks.
So my wife works from home now, but her main office was like right down in the middle of the red zone, and they were already relocating people who lived downtown near the office and went, on our dime, we'll put you up in hotels away from this nonsense.
That's the way to lose everyone in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Just honking all night.
Right.
That's the worst. Everyone trying to sleep.
Yes. So a couple of things happened over the course of the early days. First of all, what they will call the lunatic fringe, or what I will call your people, walked in. So this is where you're seeing the swastikas. This is where you're seeing the Nazi flags. This is where you're seeing the "Don't Tread on Me's." I'm sure you're familiar with that one.
Yep.
I got a guy around the corner from my house. I call him the guy who orders from hateflags.com, because every 2 weeks he's got like a new flag up. It's like it's got the US. First, it started with the Trump Pence flag. Which is
simple.
Well, yeah. Well, it's hanging out of his backyard. The fucking coward! Like, he's not even putting it up front, right? He's just like,
also he's in Canada.
Yeah,
I know.
Right. Right. So it's
I don't have an error known tool or whatever.
Exactly. Thank you. Well, you can't now. He's gone. We'll get to him later.
So is Trump, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. And this guy, if he tried to vote in the States, it'd be like, that's voter fraud. That's literally what you're against. So,
well, I read that there was people were waving Confederate flags.
Yes, there was another one.
Which is like, I've said this about California. I grew up in California, and everyone in Northern California, and when you get to the hills, you see Confederate flags.
Yes.
And there is, I guess, an argument you can make if you're in the South that goes, no, this is just my heritage. But if you're in Northern California or Canada, there's no mistaking what you mean. By waving a Confederate flag.
Right.
It has no relevance to this debate.
Right. I'm sure it is your heritage, and I get that. But your heritage is bad. So stop. Right.
Yes.
Like, you can correct that. There's not a lot of swastikas in Germany. Not a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, it was Jefferson Davis anti-vaccine mandate. Like, there's no relevance to the issue here.
Yeah, you're right. They don't correlate.
Yeah. So those people came in and know this: the conservative movement in Canada is broken across two parties now. It used to just be one, but the one party, the Conservative Party of Canada, which I love, by the way. Like, our parties, like, you accuse people being conservative or liberals, and ours are like just on the plate. It's like at the debate, you're a liberal. It literally says it on my sign. I don't know why
it says liberal.
Complaining.
Yeah,
it says liberal, because we have a liberal party and a conservative party and a few others. But there was a splinter group in the last election called the People's Party. Always be careful of that. Whenever a party says, "Oh, we're the Peoples," which ones? The overly white peoples? Is that who it is? Because that's who these are. It's the People's Party of Canada, who are more right wing. They are anti-vax, anti-climate change, all these things. Like, they are just right. So instead, like, the way I've always kind of described the difference between U.S. politics and our politics, like, your politics is very much a light switch. It's like Democrat, Republican. Those are your two choices, right?
Yes.
Whereas ours is like a burn notice sign that you see as you're going up towards the cottage. It's like, okay, is it in the red zone? Is it in the green zone? Because we have 5 different parties that kind of break out the prism. So we don't really get that polarization as much. Right. So the People's Party of Canada was loving this thing because this is their people. They're like racist, replacement theory, anti-science. These are their people. So the leader of that party is just in there glad handing stuff like that. And so the Conservatives recognize the People's Party is gaining momentum. So they're trying very much these days to woo favor from there, and trying to not, because what happened with Erin O'Toole, the leader that we just lost,
the leader of the Conservative
Party, the party noticed that he was taking a more centrist approach, and that's why he got ejected. Okay. Because he was trying to woo the rest of the country as opposed to this inflammatory base.
Yeah, and
so
that's
now, bad. So now when you're seeing Pierre Poilievre, who is coming forward, who is a fucking wingnut, trying to take over the leader of the Conservative Party, we have the interim leader of the party, Candice Bergen, not the actor,
not Murphy Brown,
not Murphy Brown. They literally call her Murphy Brown shirt up here.
Oh, that's a good one.
My favorite joke I wrote about this is Murphy Brown is now surprised that she's trending and racist. So she is not she is also trying to woo favor with these guys because first of all, she was seen in a lot of photos wearing a camouflage "Make America Great Again" hat. So that's not just a dog whistle.
Doubling down.
That is doubling down. She has definitely flirted with the other side. In fact, there's pictures of her actually having dinner with convoy members. Like, it's just like so they're trying to get in bed with these people a lot.
Yeah, which surprises me. Whenever this is happening around the world, there's a super right wing or whatever you want to call it. I can't place our politics on another country, but the anti-vax crowd, right?
Sure.
They're popping up Australia, all over the place. And they're always a small minority of the general population. The 90% of the rest of everybody is just going about their life. A lot of people don't even comment on it. They don't think about it. It doesn't have anything to do with their day. But these 10% are loud, so they get media attention. But then what I find interesting and kind of stupid is that there's a bunch of politicians rush to go be their person, right? But meanwhile, if you become their person, so what? You only have 10%.
Yes.
That's not enough to win
but
you.
they're active.
Yes.
Am I wrong? Or maybe it is. Is it
wanna...
enough to win you an election in certain provinces? I guess maybe.
Right. Well, that's where you get Ted Cruz.
Well, he's
Ted Cruz, the worst thing to come from Canada since Nickelback.
Is he Canadian?
Yes, he was born here.
His dad killed Kennedy. It's very complicated.
A lot going on.
And his wife is just a horrible mess. That's what I've heard.
She's ugly, according
to our former president. Yeah. We do need to take an ad break. We need to take a break. We'll do a quick break. We are when we come back, I want to talk about how these truckers eventually got all their assets frozen.
Yeah, we got to talk.
So it ramps up here in a second, if it hasn't already. So we are part of the world's smartest podcast network. There are 3 shows that we know of on the network. It is us. It is Dr. Andrea Jones-Roy, host of the Majoring in Everything podcast. And I say her first because she has a show at Caveat in New York City on March 1st. You can get tickets. I'll put the link in the description of this show as well. For tickets, Cap will be there. You can also watch online. You can buy tickets to watch a live stream of it that you can have for a week. It's her one-person show. She's doing stand-up, circus, and what's the third one? Like political science theory or something, Kaplan?
Sure. Data. Wait, what do we get?
Data science.
Data entry.
She's a professor at NYU, plus a professional circus act, where she breathes swallows fire, and
she makes data science a little more interesting than the average. And
she's a stand-up, so she's combining all that into a one-person show. It's going to be wild. Go see that March 1st. Cap will be there. I'll be watching online because we'll be flying back from Mexico at the time. And the other show is The Political Orphanage with Andrew Heaton. It is a show for people who are not Democrat or Republican. If you don't easily fit into one side or the other,
but not People's Party people, but
and it's definitely not. I don't think it's People's Party people. It's just independents. Go listen to him, and he attacks all of politics from an independent point of view. Check that out. And now, Kaplan, a word. Oh, wait, one more thing I wanted to say. Our friend Sean Murphy, stand-up comedian, just put out his comedy special called Neil. You can watch it on YouTube. Sean's great, good friend of mine.
Former guest of the pod.
He's from Buffalo, which is almost Canada, so maybe he has fans up there.
We did an episode about him back in our old format days. So
about Buffalo, and he's great. He's hilarious. One of my good friends. So check that out on YouTube. Just type in Neil Sean Murphy, SHAUN Murphy, Neil. Now, a word from your local sponsor. All right, we're back.
Thank you, sponsors.
Thank you very much, sponsors. Okay, Todd.
I too endorse that particular product or event.
Yes.
We have no idea what it could be, but yes.
Sometimes it's us because we pre-record. We do some ad reads every once in a while, and so it might be us.
I happily endorse.
They might drop in.
Sometimes it's fungus cream. You never know what you're going to get.
You never know. So, all right. So these truckers have taken over Ottawa. They're honking, which I don't see as a good strategy.
Like the honking,
but they're honking all night.
They're also like partying. It looks like there's a lot of it seems like a tailgate in some ways from our perspective.
The other interesting thing is we recently had a protest by the Wet'suwet'en Indigenous people here in Canada. What they did is they closed off a railway. Okay. So they just they got off a railway line and camped out there. And the same conservative leaders that came out in support of the truckers were the same ones saying they're cutting off productivity. They're making a mess for people. These native people have to go. It's like, well, I wonder white might be the problem here.
Well, that's why I don't like anybody, because nobody's ever going to be consistent on these things, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So speaking of that productivity and everything, it then spreads to Windsor, Ontario, which is a totally different place for Americans. That is across the border from Detroit.
You got it.
And Yeah, they cut off the border there, correct?
And that got Biden's attention. He didn't like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So two people kind of got their toes stubbed while this was going on. So a couple of things happened after that first week. They camped out in Ottawa, and they've got saunas coming in. People are making barbecues. They hired DJs.
Saunas,
hot tubs.
Portable saunas is classy.
Because whenever you're detailing an insurrection, do we have saunas?
You got
I remember when the March on Washington, they had saunas. And,
yeah. Well, they didn't need saunas because that guy had that wool, that fur hat. So he was.
Oh, well, that's the more recent one. I meant.
That insurrection is fine.
The Queen, the Q guys don't bring saunas. Yeah,
no. So saunas sound communist. Now, Windsor. So a couple things happened. So the Windsor protests happened, and they shut down that border, right? And then they started to occupy other cities. In Montreal and in out west and Toronto in particular, I'm going to draw attention to. So Windsor. No flow of traffic was going over. Their communication application they were using called Yellow or Cello or something like that. It emulates a walkie-talkie, and that's how they're communicating. So what people would do is they would go in, infiltrate the conversation and steal information so they knew what the next move was going to be and give them false information. So that it was constantly chaos on that end. So they would close that off, and then someone else would come in and infiltrate and do this exact. But
it was causing, from what I read, $300 million a day in trade damage. Blocking the Windsor. It's the route from Canada to the United States.
Damage to us. Damage to America.
And it wasn't until your good President Biden went, fuck, come on, do you need our help? And then that's when Trudeau went, fucking enough. And so I think call forward and say, can you turn off the fucking snowmobile and listen to me for a second? Close this fucking shit up. So he finally did this. So he finally said, okay, now I'm going to move. And that's when the whole thing came out about him on the snowmobile. And then I
would think trade, I don't know how it shakes out in Canada. How it shakes out down here is our Republicans or our right wing are also very pro-business. So they would not like shutting down.
That's why this story is all over the place, because it's a very capitalist reason to shut down a protest, ultimately.
Well, Doug Ford came to power. He rose to power by saying Ontario was open for business. He put signs at the Ontario border. So whenever you come into Ontario, it says, welcome to Ontario, open for business. So this was very counter to what
this was shutting down business.
It was shutting down business. And this is what he was doing. So he got yelled at by all the car companies who had to lay off people because they weren't getting parts and they couldn't assemble cars. Crazy. Right. So as soon as that happened, he was like, well, I better turn off this skidoo and get down. And
as soon as Americans weren't getting their cars.
Right.
That's when this got shut down.
So then he was now this is where it really gets elegant. The Ottawa police force were not doing anything. And the reason they weren't doing anything, and this is completely hypothesis, but the way it seems to shake out, our chief of police resigned over the management of this crisis. He is a black man, I believe the first black commissioner of the chief of police of Ottawa. And after the shooting of a black teenager, I believe it was in Ottawa, he forced the police to take racial awareness training, which they did not care for. And I believe the boots on the ground refused to do his bidding in order to get him out.
Okay.
That is my belief. It is not proven.
Certainly on this podcast, we take our guest beliefs, and that's fact. And that's came on.
And Todd, just to clarify again, so because the police chief wouldn't do anything.
Right.
No one above them could necessarily step in and make them. Trudeau couldn't come in with a national guard.
So this is where Doug tried to come in. And he said, I'm sending police. I'm sending hundreds and hundreds of police. And Ottawa 2 days later went, where are the fucking police? No one showed up. There was nothing. And so we were getting conflicting numbers of I sent 5,000 cops. And there are 5. It made no sense. Right. So that's when Trudeau stepped in and did the Emergencies Act. Okay.
Right.
Now, the Emergencies Act is an upgrade from the War Measures Act, which happened in 1940, something like that.
The Emergencies Act was in 1988, correct? Wasn't it? passed originally?
Yes, that's right. So what had happened was they had taken the script of the War Measures Act, which gave overreaching rights of the Canadian government to help during wartime, and embedded in it legislation and verbiage that protected the rights and freedoms of Canadians. There are things you can do with the Emergencies Act. There are things you cannot do with the Emergencies Act, unless you're doing A, B, and C, which is why you trigger in the Emergencies Act, right? So these truckers are doing A, B, and kind of C. So yes, we're gonna do this. So one of the
those would be A, B, and C would be like shutting down,
honking.
So that's like civil honking,
terrorists.
a lot of honk. We all know, how noisy 9/11 was. It was really bad.
That was the main issue America had.
It was
it was loud.
It was very loud.
Yeah.
So I am going to get so much mail over that.
Can you imagine someone was like, I was trying to sleep. It's really, I was sympathetic to Osama bin Laden. But
they signed up. They enlisted in the military just because of the noise pollution.
Yeah, downtown.
I'm on nights. So, Jesus Christ. Well, time.
Sorry,
plus,
we were gonna
tragedy plus time, eh? Right?
Sure. Okay.
So they were proffering civil disobedience. Which is what this was. They were not enabling or restricting flow of trade, and impacting on the rights and freedoms of other people. People being laid off from factories that can't get parts. People living in the immediate area who were constantly having to deal with these people. People were getting harassed in Toronto when the demonstration hit. The healthcare workers were told, "Don't show up to work in your scrubs, because you'll get hassled."
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right.
So someone on Twitter, much more smarter than me, went, "I can't believe in 2022, it's easier for you to walk around with a Nazi flag than wearing healthcare uniforms." Right. Like
Sure.
It's just that. So what the Emergencies Act did, it does not encroach on the rights. All it does is it allows military police, like from forces from the Canadian forces down, to behave like the municipal government that they're trying to support. So that's what they're doing. So what they were doing is putting more active boots on the ground, legislating it. So I'm like, cops, if you don't want to fucking be there, there's a problem, and we will deal with you in a second, but get your ass down there and get these truckers out of here. So that's what was happening. So I finally were able to follow the law through massive numbers, because at that point, when the occupation was here, they outnumbered the cops, because you still needed cops that were going to do other things. So they couldn't actually manage the gross number of people. And that's why there was constantly this fear that if it breaks bad, we don't have any backup for any of this if bullets start falling. Because Pat King, one of the organizers of the thing, we'll come back to him later, Pat King was recorded so many times in these little videos to his fans as like, the only way this is going to end is in bullets.
Wow.
So knowing this rhetoric is flying around there, is like, okay, this is a powder keg.
And they also found, was it in Alberta, where they found just a truckload of ammunition in someone's truck? Yeah.
But there haven't been any shots actually fired anywhere, right?
No shots fired. Shots fired. None.
And are guns? You can have guns in Canada?
Of course. We've got more guns than you do per capita.
We were told the opposite.
Michael Moore lied to you again, Turner.
Yes, we have guns. I got friends of mine here in Ottawa that have gun safes.
It's Canada, I forgot. Yeah, think about it.
It's for hunting. You got to fill the freezer with deer meat.
Okay, good.
Right. And what about the military police? What do you mean by that? It's not the army, right? It's like
National Guard.
They have the ability to send in National Guard and Army if they wish, but they would behave not as agents of the state. They would behave as agents of the local municipality. Okay. So they would come in and go, okay, your legislation, we're going to arrest, we're going to tag and tow. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to seize this property that is illegally parked here, and we're going to go. Right. So they're just literally, all of this could be solved with a great number of cops that wanted to do the job, and it could have been done. Could have been done in a weekend. Right. Yeah. Toronto, when they saw trucks coming in, blocked off all roads and forced arteries through one-way streets. And God bless the people of Toronto, because I saw a Facebook post from people who were part of the demonstration saying Toronto was way different than Ottawa was. In Ottawa, they just let us do stuff. In Toronto, they stood in front of our cars, wouldn't let us go. We got told to fuck off way more times than I've ever been told in our lives. We were given the finger from people. It was amazing. I miss my home of Toronto so much. So go ahead.
And I was gonna say, didn't they freeze, like we read the Emergencies Act allows them to freeze the assets of the organizers, but also people who donated.
Correct.
It's a little
right. Okay. So this is where things are going to get muddy. So the talking point that you're going to hear from the conservative side is that, well, if the prime minister doesn't like it, he freezes your accounts. That's it. That's all that happens. It's like, this is not the case. They have said time and time again that they're only going after the organizers who are getting donations. So as soon as these organizers get donations, because there was talk of one of the organizers had taken money out of the GoFundMe or the Give, Get, Go, Jesus Christ place.
I heard there's like an alt-right GoFundMe, right?
Yes. So yeah, I think I can explain that quickly. Like first people were raising money on GoFundMe.
Correct.
The Canadian government got GoFundMe to stop, and they raised $8 million roughly.
What were they paying for besides?
And then you had just a second, Cap. And then the Canadian government got them to stop doing that. Got GoFundMe to stop their site. So then some Christian guy in the United States, I believe, started a copycat GoFundMe called Get, Give, Go or something, and they raised $8 million more on that.
Yes,
so that these truckers could get hot tubs and party and hang out while they're sitting around with their trucks and not working.
Or just paying for their salary. Yeah, salaries.
Exactly. Hey, that DJ is not going to spin himself.
Do you know though that the joke's on these people, because I just learned the hard way through a charity recently that GoFundMe takes 25% of your money. So
right.
So they're the ones that got cleaned up.
They're sad to miss this business, but at least GoFundMe is
at least they cleaned up. Yeah.
At least they have a conscience, kind of, I guess. So what's happening is that they're locking out that account because one of the things Turner's pissed off already.
He left.
I'm not going to have GoFundMe besmirched.
Yeah, he's a shareholder.
No. There was actually an organizer that was discovered to have flown in on a private jet to this thing, was staying at a hotel when all the participants, were sleeping in their trucks. Like, she was being very pampered in all of this.
Who was that? That was that the one who got arrested, or
Tamara Lich?
Yeah, I saw she had her like bank account frozen, or
she had her bank account frozen, and she's denied bail.
Okay.
She's not denied bail as of point. And at the time of recording right now, Pat King's trial for bail is going on as we speak, as we record. And I've been trying to get a final answer as to whether
Pat King was a white nationalist, but is this Tamara Lynch known as that, or is she just like who is she exactly before this?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea where she came from. These are like the multi-headed hydras that just kind of pop up everywhere as like, "Hi, we're horrible," and then they go away. So,
but regular people, like, because I guess the one thing we were reading that was a little concerning was that if you donated money, you could theoretically have your accounts frozen for like 30 days or so.
This is where the right is trying to play this. And so there was a conservative MP, I believe in BC, who talked about this poor woman named Brianne, who, when it was perfectly legal, she's a single mom.
Oh, well,
she's a single mom just trying to get through. She works at day shift, but she thought when it was legal, she supported the plight of these truckers, these good, honest people. Again, fucking stupid. And she did it when it was perfectly legal, just sent them $50. That's all she did. She could barely afford it herself.
Canadian dollars too, right?
And that's Canadian dollars. For you, that's like $18. But for her, that's many doubles and boxes of Timbits that she will go without for the next little while. And she's now had her accounts frozen. And this MP, Corey, I believe is his name, was distraught and brought her name forward on Twitter, saying he was going to fight for the rights of Brianne to not have her accounts frozen. And so many reporters went through all of the leaked Give, Get, Go transactions. Not one of them for $50. Not one of them by the name Brianne. Brianne's name doesn't show up in any of those. And then they're trying to figure out if it came from the GoFundMe of who this person could be. And this all smacks of, oh yeah, I have a girlfriend. She lives in Canada. You wouldn't know her.
She doesn't go to this school.
Doesn't go to this school at all. No, you wouldn't know her. But
super hot though.
She is super hot.
We're going to stop saying that about Canada though. We're embarrassed. Now we're going to pick another country.
So every call for this guy is like, okay, so let's bring her forward and let's support her. It's like, no, yeah, she's just really, I wish I could help her. It's like, well, you can. Let's, if this is true, we really have to stop this. Yeah, well, think about Brianne. So she doesn't exist. She doesn't exist. No one exists. No one's bank accounts are being shut down.
So they're not doing that.
They're not doing that. They're shutting down active protesters. They've told protesters to go away. So if you're still actively protesting, they're going to shut down your funds. That's it. They're going to leave you drive that way.
And they're taking their trucks away, or
yeah.
So the trucks have been impounded. If you're not going to move them, if you refuse to move, then they'll be impounded. And so the mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson, is now trying to sell the trucks, get legislation to sell the trucks to give money back to all the businesses that lost money over the past 3 weeks because they couldn't open.
People own their trucks, right? Like, did you realize that? I didn't know this going into Turner, that like truckers own their own trucks. That's how elite I am.
Some do.
Yeah, no, I think I knew that.
Some do.
Yeah.
Some do, yeah.
Yes.
So and when you say that if you're active protesting, they're going to freeze your account, does active protesting mean the people on the board, if you're blocking trade of some kind, or what if you're active protesting, but like in your hometown and you're
at the sauna? What if you're in the sauna?
What if you're in the sauna? If you're in the sauna, that's fine. You know, sauna protest is okay. We're okay with the sauna protest.
Or are there like parking lots where you can just go sit in a parking lot and have a protest that's not actually blocking any traffic or any?
Well, here's the thing. So the Canadian the Emergencies Act is for small periods of time, and it needs the consent of government repeatedly. Like, you got to go in and renew it in House of Commons. So that's that's kind of like our house.
As Tucker Carlson says, the House of Commons.
The House of Commons. So you have to go in and reinstate this as like, we still see this as a threat, and they do, because right now there's hundreds of truckers on this private property that are just waiting. So because of that, we still have the Emergencies Act. What does this mean for the regular Canadian people just doing their job? Nothing. It means nothing unless you're part of this racist convoy, unless you're trying to disturb the peace, unless you're trying to go downtown and honk again. If you're, they have declared the red zone and they're clearing it out. That's what the Emergency Act was supposed to do. Get these people out. And that's what it's done. It was supposed to free up the bridge. That's what it's done. So nothing else has happened.
What if Trudeau loses power in 5 years, for example, someone from the other side comes in and they now use that for nefarious reasons,
or like to block a BLM protest or something there was that protest of the indigenous people, like any other protest basically they don't like. That's I guess the precedent's been set though a little bit.
So what has to happen is you were really getting into the nitty gritty now. So we recently just had another election because Trudeau called it.
Yep.
And as I
covered that on the show.
Yes.
Actually.
We didn't cover the follow-up. Trudeau won.
Yes, as I described on another podcast, explaining it to Americans. If you ever want to see a man chasing an inside straight, that's what Trudeau did when he called that election, because he thought at the beginning, I got so much goodwill here. COVID's going well. It's fine. So he called the election, and then numbers started to drop and restrictions started to happen again. And everyone's going, what the fuck? Why do we have to do this again? So like he got a
almost
similar
lost
minority.
His own called election.
Yes.
Yeah. We covered that. We did that. I don't know. Was that 6 months, a year ago?
September? No, it was like a few months.
Yeah. So we have what we call as a minority government, which means you have the majority of the seats, but you don't have an overwhelming majority. You need to woo other parties to your platform and votes to be able to get things through. So the party they typically call on is the NDP, the New Democratic Party, because they're they're slightly more left than the kind of centrist liberals are. So they're more pro-environment, pro-union. They're similar in legislation to environmental policy as the Green Party, which we also have. Yep. So they can come into this to do this as well. So the NDP endorsed support of the Emergencies Act, saw for what it was, and said that. So if a minority conservative government came in, they would have to. The only way they'd be able to enact that is if they had a full majority in the House, and then they could do whatever they want. Kind of like what happened in the Senate when when the Republicans had 3 branches of government but did nothing. It was weird, right? No.
Yes.
So goddamn.
And how
weird.
does the NDP feel? Are they on board with everything Trudeau's doing? Because they're, as you said, more union, which I think they'd be more working class, right? And the truckers might be more could be their voters sometimes. Yeah,
weirdly, we are not immune to people voting against their interest up here. So I have never understood like working class people going, God, I don't have enough money and my healthcare costs are really going through the roof and I really can't afford things. Let's give corporations a tax cut. That should help things, right? Yes, that should. We have that. We have that as well.
You're like sound like the same country as America, really.
But our money's funny, and everyone has guns. I got 3 right here. I mean,
pull them out.
Yeah. So what? That would be a good show, actually. You just started firing off guns in Canada. This is legal. Kaboom, kaboom,
I just realized, by the way, we're in all 3 countries here: in Mexico, Canada, America.
Correct. This is NAFTA.
All of North America
baby.
covered.
NAFTA pod.
So is there a possibility then that this could be pulled by someone else? Could this be a thing that now gets pulled every 2 years when a new government takes over?
Well, if you're going to pull things, there's a couple of ways that you can pull things. And Doug Ford actually tried to pull one, and I think did pull one recently. There is something in provincial and federal legislation we have up here called the notwithstanding clause, right? Mm-hmm. Which basically says, I know I don't have if I have a full majority in the House, I know this isn't popular and it might go against the Constitution, but fuck it. And so they can do, and I don't know why this is such a Canadian thing to do. We didn't just, how the Death Star had that one port that you could, we actually highlighted it and put neon arrows at it going, hey, if something isn't going right for you, just do the notwithstanding clause. And it was understood by politicians everywhere that we don't use this kill switch. Don't flick it. Doug Ford, zero shame. Click. Let's do that. So, so there's lots of ways parliamentarily that you can make things happen in Canada, and this is just one of the ways you could do the notwithstanding clause. You can do the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act is a more formalized process that is very specific to things of this nature, that very much forces you to really even-handedly think this out and go, what does this mean to Canada? And the case was made. I thought the only people this is impacting is the people that are trying to disrupt things.
Yeah,
right.
It's never been used before.
We're presenting the opposite. We're presenting the what about this? What about this? But as you said, and we can all read anywhere you look up, it seems like 90% or more of Canadians agree that these people should go away.
Yeah. We're done. We're done with them. I said this on my podcast before. If you came up to 16-year-old me in high school and went, "Hey, Todd, this is going to be a cool thing. You see, there's going to be a communication device called a phone." I go, "Really?" Go, "Yeah." And you'll carry it with you everywhere. It'll be like a Star Trek communicator. "Really?" "Yeah." You can communicate with everyone. And here's the other cool thing. It's going to have all the information in the world on it. "Really?" "Yeah, it's going to be great." And go, "So the world is going to be perfect." "No, you see Darcy over there? He's going to fuck everything up, but he hasn't graduated high school." Exactly. So
you should figure out a way to give them American citizenship or something and have them all.
Well, they're halfway there anyway, because there is a lot of MAGA. There is an awful lot of MAGA in these people. There's an awful. Oh, you'll love this. Okay, so during the bail trials of bail hearings of one of the truckers from yesterday, this happened. He stood before the judge, a Canadian judge, and said, "Well, the reason I thought I could get away with this is I was just exercising my First Amendment rights."
You guys don't have one, right?
And she stopped him right there and went, "What's the First Amendment? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I just thought I could do stuff because it was my First Amendment right." And to be fair, Canada does have a First Amendment to our Constitution. It is the recognition of Manitoba as a province. So I get it. I get it. There's been a lot of smack talk about Manitoba. You're not going anywhere. We love you. We love you, Manitoba.
You didn't make the exact same amendments to your Constitution that we made to ours in the same order.
I assume whenever I'm hearing about your First Amendments, I go, "See, the U.S. likes Manitoba too." I like that. They're big Jets fans down there.
So, do you guys have a protection for free speech? What is the actual?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is. It's in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it is called the freedom of expression up here. So it would fall under that category, which is under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, not the Constitution. The Constitution builds the nation.
Right.
The Charter of Rights and Freedom is what is the document that we hold up for personal rights up here. So any legislation. So when they repealed the War Measures Act and became the Emergencies Act, they were taking into consideration the document of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to make sure that it was covered off. So that's why that rewrite happened.
And you have would the Canadian Supreme Court at some point rule if this was I mean, it'd be after the fact, but the rule that this was like okay to use the Emergency Act now, or that's not how it.
I'm not sure how that legislation would go. Yeah. The path to the Supreme Court, I don't think is legislated. Trust me, I have.
Yeah, because it's never. I'm just asking because it's never been used before, and I'm wondering, like, were there other times in your history where people thought about using it and didn't use it?
Yes. Okay. So I think it could go to the Supreme Court, and there is a path to get there. If you wanted to have this, and I'm so dumb about this, I apologize. We have had legislation that has needed to go to the Supreme Court for a decision based on ruling. We've had provincial laws just recently that went all the way to the Supreme Court that Doug Ford is trying to pass, and so got the yes or no from that. So we do have legislative things, but the reason it kind of hazed on me is I don't know if you know the comedian Mike Ward. He just had a Human Rights Tribunal in Canada case go to the Supreme Court. He got a Supreme Court hearing for a joke that he made about a handicapped kid. So
how did that end up? Because we do in comedy circles, at least, I don't know if the general public in America knows about it, but comedians all know about it in the US. And we talk about it like every once in a while. You just gave the setup. How did it end, or has it ended?
He was acquitted. So he has the right to make the jokes about that. So in response to that, I have been making fun of handicapped children anytime I have the opportunity. I have just, why don't you wheel out of here, weirdo? Because now I can. It's just
that's good. I'm happy for you guys. It was a horrible people. It's a horrible joke. It's a horrible joke, and it's just awful. Like, it's not funny. It's not good. It's hurtful to another person. He's truly punching down. And which is weird because he looks like Elon Musk after the pandemic wait. Like Mike Ward is not a pleasant looking human being. He looks very shy.
In Canada, I like how in Canada free speech protects comedy, but maybe not bad comedy.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't. Like, I was hoping it would be like, they're talking about like big oil, they're trying to get shut down, or like a weird thing about resistance to vaccines or something like that. No, he was taking a swing at a kid whose hearing aids look funny. It's like, okay, fine.
But it's got to protect it. My last question is, how does this end with because Trudeau barely won 6 months ago, right?
Correct.
But he won, but he's still in power. Is he now more popular? Like, is he a winner out of this because he came down hard on these guys?
No one's walking away without needing a shower in all of this, and a lot of the conservative politicians are going to really need a good scrubbing after all this is done, because they have really painted themselves into a corner in a lot of cases. Because over the course of this 3 weeks of this occupation, I think a lot of Canada may have come out and supported. It's literally how AstroTurf organizations start. They make you sound like, hey, aren't you proud of Ontario? Well, yes, I am proud of Ontario. Hey, don't you hate it when the Liberals do this? Well, yeah, I do hate when the Liberals do this. Hey, don't you think that we should get rid of immigrants? Now, hang on.
Yeah.
It's like that's the flow. And I think over the course, like, a lot of people went, yeah, these truckers are right. Why do we have this legislation? Not realizing the same legislation on the other side. How the fuck are they going to get back home? Like, it's just one email could have solved this entire thing. It could have this entire thing could have been an email, right?
You don't think this is going to be like a Canada Tea Party moment, is what you're saying? Like, it's not going to turn into this whole.
This started as that. I think it started as, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see more emboldenment on the far right as a result of this, because they're getting oxygen, because of the thing. But I think the majority of Canadians have actually seen this what it is, seen it for what it was, and they're seeing that these organizations, the organizers of this rally, are not good people. They're not people that you want to be associated with. And if you are, well, then you're already making that step. You're already going towards that way of thinking. What I think is going to happen is that the Conservative Party, having lost their centrist guy in Aaron O'Toole, who was he had the worst job on the planet. He had to convince the rest of the country that he was going to protect everything that they held dear, while telling his base he was going to take it away. And it's untenable.
It's a tough sell.
So a very tough sell. Like, he had the worst job in the world. I felt sorry for him if he wasn't such a boob. So now they're trying to find a new leader. And I have the feeling the new leader is going to be catering more to the far right.
Right.
So what's going to happen is you're going to see a splinter of the Conservatives that do not want this far right element, that don't want anti-immigration laws, that don't want Nazis taking over their party effectively, and you're going to see them kind of shift towards the Liberals as a last resort, because that's the way the prism kind of swings, because we go People's Party of Canada, which is like really, really hard right, Conservatives, Liberals, NDP, and then the Green Party.
Yep.
So that's our spectrum. So you're going to see, I think, a lot of shift from the Conservative Party is going to go this way and this way.
So that's good for Trudeau, who's like center right. I mean, center left, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but here's the other problem with Trudeau. Like, yes, this is kind of a shining moment, and his father, who is also a Prime Minister of Canada, he had a similar crisis with the FLQ. I don't know if you know about that. So the FLQ was a Quebec terrorist organization.
Yeah, Quebec separatist, right?
Yeah, Quebec separatist terrorist organization that he, I believe he enacted the War Measures Act to take care of them. And there was an interview that he did very famously up here. He says, like, how are you going to handle this? That do you think it's ethical to do it, to handle the FLQ in this manner? And he just looked at the interview and said, just watch me. And so everyone was waiting for Justin to go, come on, say it.
Use the old line, the old family line.
You guys, you guys haven't had though, like major. I guess there's been no Quebec. That Quebec organization isn't a terrorist organization anymore. They don't. No. Have had this kind of attacks since then, or?
Oh no. They we have. So okay, remember how I said there's 5 political parties? There's actually 6. There's a Bloc Québécois who actually, if it wasn't for the one thing where they said we want to fucking get rid of Canada as a nation and leave it ourselves, they have really good ideas. Like they have a really, it's so bad.
One really
they have
bad
a really
idea.
Free poutine for everybody. No,
but it's like. But side note, you can use this for next week. Did you know the French translation of Putin's last name is Poutine in French? Oh. It's beautiful. So
that's my shirt.
It's a very delicious. There you go.
There it is.
Beautiful. That is a French Russian shirt. You should drop that.
Don't tell the Ukrainian fans.
Yeah, like the Bloc Québécois is all about like progressive climate change addressing. They have their healthcare system funding is really up to par. They do have a couple of problematic things. One being some racist policies about symbols in public spaces and this whole separate from Canada thing.
Death
but other than that, other than those 2 things,
listen,
pro-vaccine mandates,
compromises everywhere. You know.
Yes, exactly.
See, I said good people.
All right. Well, Todd, thank you so much for doing the podcast, man.
That's fine.
I look forward to your listeners emailing me, telling me how wrong I was on so many things, and I get that. I'm probably like,
send it. We just want comments, hate or love. Just send us comments, guys. We just want some engagement.
As we tell our guests, you know more than our listeners do, so that's all. If they learn,
we take the side of whatever side our guest comes down on. We're on that side now, so send us the hate too.
All righty.
You have the Above the Pub podcast. Everybody check that out. And what's Write 'em Up?
Okay, so Write 'em Up is a show we did live, obviously pre-COVID, at Comedy Bar in Toronto, where I would host a show and I bring 5 comics up onto the stage. They would do comedy, and while they're doing it, I have writers writing roast jokes about everything that comedian does, and then I dismiss the comic, and then I take the roast jokes and I read them out verbatim to the audience.
Amazing.
Providing anonymity and emotional distance for the writers.
But not for the comics.
Not for the comics. No, they get hit. And so we actually moved it online over COVID, obviously, and it's been quite successful. And so we've moved to this place called the Unknown Comedy Club. A couple of friends of mine set up an online comedy club where you buy tickets, you get to watch the show.
Oh, cool.
And it's been really successful there. So the next one is March 11th. And Turner, love to have you on. At some point, you can come on.
I would love to do it. I was going to say March 11th, I'll be recording my album.
Right.
We can't promote anything else March 11th.
I'll have you on a future online episode.
I would love to do it.
Yes.
How do people get tickets to that, or how do they find it?
They can go to unknowncomedyclub.com, or you can follow anywhere on socials at Write 'em Up Show, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. All the information is there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'd love to do it. Todd Van Allen, everybody. Kaplan, that is it. What should we do?
We covered a lot of ground today, so I think it's time we get lost.
Get lost.